Shedeur Sanders walked into that Cleveland Browns press session wearing more than just a team-issued hoodie and cleats. He was carrying the weight of legacy, the burden of media expectation, and a target painted on his back not by his teammates, but by a media apparatus all too familiar with undermining confident young black quarterbacks. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. The moment veteran reporter Mary Kay Cabot posed that now infamous question about his father Deion Sanders' health during what was meant to be a football Q&A wasn't just a lapse in journalistic professionalism, it was a test. And Sanders passed it with a level of composure most veterans never master. This was more than a press conference. It was a crystallization of a quiet war happening in professional sports, between a media class that has historically defined athletes' narratives and a new generation of players who are no longer willing to let that happen without a challenge. What's powerful about this moment is how Shedeur didn't rise to the bait. He didn't give the media the volatile black athlete soundbite they were angling for. Instead, he delivered something far more disruptive, calm control, and a pivot back to the only thing that mattered: football. This moment became a mirror for the NFL's long-standing discomfort with outspoken or self-possessed black quarterbacks. The media machine, for all its evolution, still functions within a framework that favors certain archetypes: quiet, humble, obedient, and often views confident young black men through a lens of suspicion. Sanders, with his pedigree, social presence, and unapologetic ambition, doesn't fit that mold, and that makes some people uncomfortable. But here's the thing. They're going to have to get used to it. Because Sanders is not just playing the quarterback position. He's redefining what it means to lead a franchise in this new era of athlete empowerment. He's not just fighting for a starting job in Cleveland. He's fighting for ownership of his story. The fallout from that press conference proved that Sanders has a growing army behind him. Fans, former players, analysts, and media figures who are no longer content to let these moments pass quietly. Ryan Clark's immediate response on ESPN, calling out the racial undertones in Cabot's line of questioning, wasn't just commentary, it was validation. And it marked a shift in the balance of power. Players like Sanders are no longer isolated when media attacks come. The ecosystem around them, social media, podcasts, player-run platforms, now functions as a protective and amplifying force. Every attempt to diminish or derail a narrative can now be instantly challenged, dissected, and reversed. That's what happened here. What could have been used as a gotcha moment to label Sanders as emotional or distracted instead became a highlight reel of poise, restraint, and leadership. And that leadership isn't just theoretical. It's showing up every day on the practice field. Teammates have taken notice, not just of his arm strength or his command of the playbook, but of his demeanor. He's the first one on the field, the last to leave. He's holding private film sessions. He's dapping up defensive linemen after tough reps. He's speaking up in offensive meetings. He's even stepped in during interviews to back up veteran teammates, deflecting negative attention and showing a level of locker room diplomacy that takes most players years to figure out. What we're watching is a slow but undeniable emergence of a franchise quarterback, not just in title, but in presence. And Cleveland, a city-long star for a consistent leader at the quarterback position, might finally have found one, not in the traditional way, not in the mold of some former top pick who arrives with bow on top, but in the form of a fifth-rounder with a chip on his shoulder and the pedigree of royalty. The media tried to poke holes in his foundation. What they uncovered instead was steel. And it's not just about toughness. It's about vision. Sanders has always played the long game. From the moment he committed to Jackson State, bypassing traditional powerhouse programs to play for his father and elevate HBCU football, he made it clear that he was willing to go off script. He did it again when he transferred to Colorado, reshaped the program's visibility, and became one of the most watched athletes in college football. Every step has been calculated, every move intentional. He's not just reacting to the NFL system, he's navigating it. What's ironic is that the very qualities that the media tries to critique, his confidence, his media presence, his brand, are the same traits that NFL teams secretly crave in a modern quarterback. In today's league, leadership is as much about owning the moment off the field as it is about executing a 2-minute drill. And Sanders, whether the media wants to admit it or not, is a master of both. That private workout in Miami, the one that scouts reportedly left saying, "We may have missed the next great one," was just the appetizer. His real proving ground is now the daily grind at training camp, the pressure of preseason reps, the challenge of winning over not just coaches, but an entire city hungry for something real. And he's rising to that challenge not by being loud, but by being undeniable. Meanwhile, the conversation around him continues to shift. Analysts who once labeled him as a project are now reevaluating their stance. Veteran teammates, initially skeptical, are starting to defer to him in huddles. The coaching staff, though still non-committal publicly, has increased his reps with the first team. And fans? They're not just watching, they're choosing sides. Jerseys are flying off shelves. Kids are showing up to camp wearing custom S2 cleats. Social media posts tag hashtag Let Shedeur Cook are climbing in volume by the day. All this while Sanders continues to do what he's always done, lead through action. The real test, of course, will come in those first few preseason games. When the lights are on, the pocket is collapsing and the play clock is ticking. But if his response to pressure so far is any indication, he won't just survive, he'll thrive. Because Shedeur Sanders doesn't fold. He doesn't flinch. He recalibrates. And maybe that's the biggest lesson from a media incident. Control isn't about suppression. It's about direction, about understanding the power you have and using it intentionally. Sanders did that when he calmly deflected Cabot's question. He did it again when he smiled and said, "I'm here to talk football." And he does it every time he steps on that field and lets his game do the talking. What's happening in Cleveland right now is bigger than a quarterback competition. It's a cultural reset. It's a shift in what fans expect, what teammates follow, and what franchises build around. And at the center of it all is a 22-year-old rookie who's rewriting the playbook, not just for a position, but for how black quarterbacks can and should be seen in this league. Shedeur Sanders isn't here to fit in. He's here to stand out. And if the media still can't figure out how to frame that narrative, maybe it's because it's no longer theirs to tell. As training camp grinds forward under the summer heat, one thing becomes clearer with every snap, every whistle, and every locker room conversation. Shedeur Sanders is no longer just a storyline. He's a central figure in the Browns' internal evolution. Every franchise experiences turning points. Sometimes it comes in the form of a coaching change or a blockbuster trade. But for the Cleveland Browns, the shift might be happening through the quiet command of a rookie quarterback who has managed to turn doubt into fuel and adversity into leverage. Inside the Browns facility in Berea, the tone has changed. In past years, quarterback competitions were defined by unease and media scrutiny. But this year, as Shedeur Sanders increasingly commands reps, the atmosphere is different. There's no air of desperation. There's no panic about who the leader is. There's calm, clarity, a strange sense of order. Strange because it's coming from a player the media originally predicted would ride the bench all season long. Shedeur's influence, however, goes far beyond play calling and arm strength. Teammates aren't just impressed with his football ability. They're absorbing his professionalism. Veterans who've seen dozens of quarterbacks come and go are commenting privately that they haven't seen a rookie walking with this level of control since maybe Andrew Luck. Every team meeting, he's front row. Every practice, he's the first to arrive and the last to leave. And perhaps most importantly, he doesn't treat anyone as beneath him. That respect radiates. The offense is becoming more synchronized under his voice. Receivers are breaking off routes early to get more chemistry reps with him. Running backs are staying late to go over protection reads. And linemen, those always skeptical protectors of the quarterback, are nodding with approval when he calls out blitz pickups unprompted. What makes Shedeur's rise even more compelling is the contrast between him and the quarterbacks who have passed through Cleveland in the past decade. While many came in highly touted, armed with endorsements and expectations, they often faltered due to inconsistency, ego, or poor preparation. Some cracked under pressure. Some lost the locker room. Some simply couldn't evolve. But Sanders is already showing that he learns from mistakes faster than most make them. He doesn't repeat errors. He self-corrects. That's rare. That's coachable intelligence combined with athletic capability. And then there's his mind. Sanders' processing speed has been praised in closed-door meetings. He's able to see coverages pre-snap that even seasoned quarterbacks miss. Defensive backs have been caught off guard when he calls out their disguise before the snap. He's made adjustments at the line that even surprised the coaching staff. Audibles that weren't scripted but worked. When the staff asked him post-practice how he knew to make a certain check, his answer wasn't guesswork. It was film study. The psychological edge he carries is no accident. Growing up around NFL culture, absorbing strategy from his father Dion and mentors across the league, Shedeur was groomed for this. But what truly separates him is that he doesn't coast on pedigree. He grinds like he has nothing guaranteed. Because, in his words, the league doesn't care who your father is. They'll expose you by week 1 if you're not ready. And he's right. The NFL has always been ruthless to quarterbacks, and for young black QBs, the scrutiny can be even more unforgiving. Everything, facial expressions, body language, tone of voice and pressers, is magnified. One bad quarter, and the narrative shifts from promising to problem. Shedeur knows this. That's why he's controlling the things he can. His effort, his preparation, and his focus. Some have compared him to Lamar Jackson. Others to Russell Wilson in his prime. But Shedeur's game is uniquely his. He's not the fastest QB in the league. He doesn't need to be. His pocket mobility is subtle, calculated, and efficient. He moves just enough to reset his platform and deliver clean throws. His footwork is precise. His release quick. And his deep ball. Well, ask the Brown secondary about that. They've been burned more than once during practice when they thought they had coverage locked down, only to watch a 45-yard spiral drop into the arms of a streaking receiver. But for every highlight, there's also a correction. Sanders is brutally honest with himself. He'll walk off the field frustrated over a check down he took too late. He'll dissect his own tape long after the coaching staff's meeting has ended. This isn't about ego. It's about legacy. Shedeur knows that every practice, every rep, is a brick in the foundation he's building. Not just for a season, but for a decade-long career. Yet the pressure continues to mount. The fans have noticed. The media may be split, but the dog pound is slowly unifying around Sanders. Chants during open practices. Fan-made signs calling for him to start. A petition circulating online asking Stefanski to give him real game reps. And while the team won't say it publicly, those preseason games coming up, they're now under a microscope. A couple of strong drives could accelerate the timeline. A couple of rookie mistakes could confirm the coaching staff's caution. And that brings us to the real tension. What happens next? Joe Flacco, the seasoned vet, has the experience. Kenny Pickett has something to prove. Dylan Gabriel is still developing. But Sanders? He has momentum. And momentum in the NFL is a dangerous, beautiful thing. It shifts opinions, alters plans, and sometimes, even when a team insists on a safe route, it forces him to take a leap of faith. Some inside the building already believe the Browns will have no choice but to give Shedeur meaningful snaps by week 6, if not sooner. Not because of marketing, not because of pressure, but because he'll simply be too good to keep off the field. But he's not thinking about that, at least not outwardly. In interviews, Shedeur keeps it measured. I'm here to help the team win. Whatever that looks like, I'm ready. He says it without flinching, without signaling frustration or overconfidence. That's his strength, his ability to remain unshaken by the circus around him, even when the media spins stories, even when the camera lights hit, even when the crowd roars or boos or questions. He just gets back to work. And maybe that's the legacy he's writing. Not as the son of a legend, not as a guy who got overlooked in the draft, not even as Cleveland's future, but as a blueprint, a roadmap for what the next generation of quarterbacks should look like. Smart, prepared, unshakable. So as the sun sets on another grueling day of training camp and the players trickle out to recovery in ice baths, Shedeur stays behind. Helmet off, eyes on the tablet, watching the last few reps he took, rewinding, fast-forwarding, making mental notes. The field may be empty, the cameras may be off, but the work never stops. Because for Shedeur Sanders, this isn't just about earning a job. It's about rewriting a script. And this time, he's holding the pen. As training camp progresses and the Browns edge closer to preseason action, the attention around Shedeur Sanders has moved from cautious curiosity to active anticipation. Inside the walls of the facility, something has shifted, not because of a press release, not due to a flashy play caught on camera, but because of the quiet, consistent gravity Shedeur is exerting on the locker room. What began as an evaluation period is rapidly becoming something far more decisive. He's not just competing for reps anymore. He's subtly redefining the expectations placed on rookie quarterbacks. Every morning, the quarterbacks arrive early to study tape. That's standard protocol. But now, the group arrives even earlier. Why? Because Shedeur's already there. The youngest quarterback in the room is setting the standard, and the veterans are following it. He doesn't issue demands. He doesn't give speeches. He just acts. And his actions speak louder than the media sound bites or social media debates. Take the QB room dynamic. Joe Flacco, respected and seasoned, has long been a presumed bridge quarterback for Cleveland. Kenny Pickett, still developing after being cast aside by Pittsburgh, is trying to reclaim his narrative. Dylan Gabriel is studying, adjusting, absorbing. And Shedeur? He's both the student and the competitor. He asks questions without ego. He responds to coaching without defensiveness. But at the same time, he watches every rep taken by Flacco or Pickett like it's his own. He's not waiting for an opportunity. He's preparing for inevitability. Quarterbacks coach Alex Van Pelt reportedly remarked in a private staff meeting that Shedeur's understanding of protections and sight adjustments was well ahead of schedule for a rookie. That's coach speak for. This guy is learning too fast to keep buried on the depth chart for long. But it's not just the coaches noticing. Veteran wide receiver Amari Cooper pulled Shedeur aside after practice last week. Not to give pointers, but to talk timing on a seam route. That type of engagement doesn't happen unless the receiver believes a quarterback will be throwing meaningful passes. In another moment that spread quietly through the locker room, center Ethan Posick approached Shedeur about cadence variations. That may sound trivial, but quarterbacks and centers don't coordinate snap cadence unless there's a chance they'll be taking snaps together in a game. These details are building blocks. And the structure they're forming suggests that while the Browns may not name Shedeur the starter this month, they're already preparing for that eventuality. Meanwhile, on the practice field, Shedeur continues to deliver. His short to intermediate accuracy is surgical. The ball placement on slants and outs is consistently on the front shoulder, exactly where it needs to be to give receivers yards after the catch. On play-action bootlegs, he's already mastered resetting his feet and delivering clean strikes even while on the move. These are nuanced things that separate good from pro-ready, and yet he's doing them with the calm of someone who's been here before. That calmness is what truly sets him apart. In a particularly telling moment during a red zone drill, Shedeur took a snap, looked left, pump faked, came back to a second read, and delivered a no-look sidearm pass to the tight end dragging across the middle. It wasn't flashy, it was clinical. The defense clapped their hands in frustration, knowing they disguised the coverage perfectly, but Sanders diagnosed it anyway. One of the assistant DB coaches reportedly muttered under his breath, "He's too calm. It's like he's bored out there." But Shedeur's not bored. He's just locked in. What's becoming clearer by the day is that Shedeur is quietly forcing the coaching staff to reconsider not just the quarterback hierarchy, but the timing of the franchise's next chapter. They drafted him with the future in mind, but his presence is making it harder to postpone that future. That puts head coach Kevin Stefanski in a precarious position. If he starts Flacco and the team struggles out of the gate, the public pressure to hand the reins to Shedeur will be immediate and overwhelming. But if he starts Shedeur too early and the rookie hits a wall, especially against AFC North defenses known for their aggression, it could stun his development and jeopardize Stefanski's job security. It's the classic dilemma of quarterback transitions. Only this time, the stakes are higher because the city believes. Cleveland has seen a carousel of quarterbacks come and go. Some were overhyped. Some were underprepared. Others just never fit. But Shedeur feels different. Fans aren't just intrigued by his name or his numbers. They're drawn to his demeanor. He's not trying to save the city. He's trying to do his job well. And somehow, that humility is exactly what's made people believe he might actually be the guy. On the outside, national media is still divided. Some outlets paint him as a long-term project. Others call him the sleeper QB of the draft. But in Cleveland, the consensus among those closest to the action is hardening. He's ready sooner than expected. And Shedeur? He's not asking for anything. He's not lobbying to start. He doesn't need to. He knows the work will speak. That's something his father, Deion Sanders, drilled into him from a young age. You don't need to prove people wrong. You just need to prove yourself right. Let the rest catch up. Still, with every day that passes, the team dynamic shifts more in his favor. Defensive players have started ribbing him after good throws, not as trash talk, but as a sign of respect. That's the defensive equivalent of a fist bump. It means, you got us, and we noticed. Even more telling is how Shedeur handles mistakes. During one practice, he underthrew a fade route that got broken up. Instead of sulking or blaming the wind or miscommunication, he pulled a receiver aside, dissected the play, then ran it again after practice. No cameras, no coaches, just two players fixing a mistake together. That's leadership that doesn't ask for applause. As preseason games near, the debates are intensifying. Talk radio is flooded with callers begging for Shedeur to start. Some analysts argue it's too soon. Others say if he's the best option, you don't wait. The organization remains tight-lipped. Stefanski repeats coach speak about competition and progress. But privately, insiders admit Shedeur has outperformed expectations at every checkpoint. What happens in the preseason will matter. If he struggles, it buys the staff time. If he shines, they'll be out of excuses. Either way, Shedeur has already won the respect of the locker room, which might be more valuable in the long run than a week one start. And it's not just about the Browns. Around the league, scouts are watching. General managers are watching. They're wondering how he slipped to the 5th round. They're rechecking their scouting reports. They're quietly whispering about the one that got away. If Shedeur continues on this trajectory, he won't just be a great pick. He'll be a franchise-altering steal. But he's not focused on that. After each practice, he's back in the film room. After each rep, he's asking questions. When other players take breaks, he's on the sideline reviewing his footwork. Not because he's chasing perfection, but because he knows what's possible if he doesn't cut corners. This is how greatness is built. One rep at a time. One quiet decision at a time. One unshakable belief in yourself, even when the world is skeptical.